since our last podcast, there's been basically an entire component of history that's occurred, primarily
Right.
being Israel. But what are you doing? You're going to Italy?
Yeah, I figure maybe it's a good time to leave the
I think
country,
it's a
but
good time
there
to
could
leave the
be,
country.
yeah, I don't know. There could be, I mean, you know how immigration policies are in Europe, and sometimes people take advantage of that, and so obviously there's terrorism everywhere, right? It could happen anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah,
So
Italy
yeah.
though doesn't seem to piss anybody off. I'll tell you where the real problem is in London, England, and
Mm.
Michigan in the United States, but London, England.
Michigan,
Oh
really?
yeah, oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
know England, but at least they only have knives there, so generally, like, you're probably not gonna. It's in the
That's right.
U.S. Right? Yeah. I don't
But
know. I feel like
they just chop your head off. That's what they
yeah,
do.
that's effective
They
too, isn't
they
it?
were they were
Yeah.
doing that. I mean,
Ugh.
I was doing business in London, right, probably 2 years after 9/11, and I was doing we were doing some work with Christopher Little, who was the literary agent for J.K. Rowling's for Harry
Oh
Potter,
wow. Okay.
and he had assembled. Paul McCartney has right next to the 666 building in New York. Do you know that building that Jared Kushner owns?
Yeah.
Anyway, Paul McCartney had assembled a bunch of townhomes and brownstones for his publishing company. So we had done some work with his publishing company. And I actually met Paul McCartney, and he was
Oh
a
wow.
strange cat. But anyway, the
Yeah.
point was that they assembled all these things in New York. Christopher Little, which was J.K. Rowling's literary agent, had done the same thing in this area of London he was in. And it so happens over time it became a Islamic hotbed.
Hmm.
And when I went there, two things were wrong with me. I looked Jewish, and two, I sounded American.
Oh,
So
what is it? Well, what does a Jew look like? You gonna tell me now?
yeah, I'm looking at my nose, and my ears kind of
Yeah, I guess I got my
big.
nose is. I
You
was
know,
embarrassed by it at one time, but then I got over it.
but you want to know something? I woke up this morning sexy again, so none of it matters. But
Yeah,
anyway,
you're completely. Jews are totally. We have that geek sex factor, I think.
yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is right.
and we can say this, folks, because we happen to be mishpucha.
Sapiosexuals. But anyway, so so anyway, they when I would go back, so it was easy to get the cab in, but when I had to leave, they had bodyguards that they brought with me. And it was we're having a little technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Are you in?
No, not yet. It's not working.
Oh, hold on a minute. But anyway, so we would go
There it
into. You got it?
No. It keeps going on and off.
These cheap Chinese knockoffs.
What are you saying? Buy American headphones? I have Sony. They're expensive Japanese.
Yeah, they are. They are.
And but the
anyway,
foam on the inside is leaving this dust all over my ears, so I need to do something about that too. Sorry, please go on. They had bodyguards. Do you think that was because of your? Are you saying because of your race, or because it was a celebrity that you were dealing with?
no, it was because of me. It was because I looked American, sounded American, and Jewish, and so they would walk with bodyguards 3 blocks up to the main street to get me out of there. And I can remember passing through all these outdoor cafes with these really dark, notorious-looking individuals.
I had a guy tell me, I'm tattooed, I'm covered up today, right? But a guy once said to me, you get on, because it was like after this 9/11 stuff, and everybody was just, I wouldn't say it was just Islamophobia. I would say, even though I'm a Jew, lots of Americans don't know the difference between a Jew and a quote unquote terrorist or somebody who's Muslim. They just think Middle East and they don't know the difference. So a guy said to me, and you've seen my tattoos. I have some Jewish, very Jewy looking tattoos, right? I have the chai on my neck, and I have Hebrew all over my arm. So the guy was like, dude, you get on a plane, they're going to take one look at you and you're going to make a good example.
You're the first one.
Your throat is the first one they're going to slit, is basically what he said to me. So I was like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll cut. I don't know. I mean, I guess there are a lot of Jew haters. I I don't know. I have my Jewish pride, but maybe I should think about it when I'm traveling because we don't necessarily need to advertise it.
Well, you've been to Israel, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think of Israel?
I loved Israel. I mean, wow, it's a deep question, right? It's like,
Yeah.
there were things I really loved about it, and there's things that are like unfortunate. Obviously, it's been uh, part of the earth that's been fought over for 10,000 years, right? And there must be an actual reason behind that. Like,
Well, I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
all three religions are congregated in the real estate of Israel, and it really started back with Sarah, Abraham, Ishmael, Hagar. When Sarah said to Abraham, "Hey, if you want to have a son, you can go bang the Arab girl," and that's really what started it, right? He had his firstborn son. His oldest son was Arab, and he was Jewish. And remember, they cast him out. There's this whole story about it.
Can we look that up to find the actual? I do know the story you're referring to, and I've told it a million times, but I never know the biblical reference. Can we actually?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. James,
maybe have that.
I've had
had
a theological discussion with some theologians from the Vatican, believe it or not, on the matter.
I'm headed to the Vatican, by the way.
I know you're going to
Yeah.
Rome. That's what.
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of shit you got to send back some stuff.
I'll do some. I'm going to do some reporting, and send me any questions that you can come up with, or any listeners can come up with, and we'll try to dig into it when I'm there.
James
but back to
James has got the what is it?
Wait, you wanted the story of Hagar and Ishmael, right?
Right.
Yeah, basically. So I don't know if this is the story that Christians and Jews tell of the birth of Islam, or like, do Muslims agree that this is the beginning in the Bible, the first time that, because I think in the Bible the son's actually cursed. Is that true or no?
Yeah, well, there's three different stories. That's the problem. There's one in the Quran, the Turan. Am I right about that? And then the Bible itself. So there's three separate stories, and I never can remember which one was which, but that's where it all started. And the whole concept of your mother being Jewish, in order for you to be Jewish, is where that started. Because
the maternal bloodline.
Right, the maternal bloodlines have to come from the mother, because if they came from the father, then Islam would own Israel at this point, or they'd have a whole other compounded clusterfuck for that. But you're going to Rome. You're going to be in Italy, and what I want you to do is get where's it? The church services that take place in Rome. Directly underneath it is the Luciferian room.
Yeah, the vaults. Maybe I don't know how I could be like Alex Jones and sneak into
like Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, I don't know what he wore. I don't know what a wizard suit. But I read a whole article on what you can and cannot wear when you're in the Vatican City, which was interesting.
What can't you wear?
And what's free and what costs money. Like, I could attend a papal mass, which would be interesting. I'm not going to do it. You do need to get tickets, but the tickets are free to go to the mass. But
like
probably for those,
it's like a game show.
Yeah, probably the private Luciferian vault. Well, I would need a special backstage pass. And that's probably expensive, or I'd have to. I don't know. What would I dress like to get in there?
I don't know. Ask questions. I would figure it out. Get down there in the Vatican library. What were you going to say, James? Did you get
the Muslims believe that Ishmael is the ancestor of Muhammad.
Yeah.
So
interesting. So it wasn't Abraham. It was,
and several of the Arab tribes. They believe he's the I guess.
That's interesting, because it's Abraham's seed,
right?
And what was the woman's name? Hagar. Yeah.
So I wish we had a Muslim here to explain it, because we only know the one side.
Right. Well, we know the Christian side, we know the Jewish side, but we're not really.
So are you saying that the Quran says that Ishmael came from the prophet Muhammad, or came from Abraham?
Okay, well, I know it from Abraham. See, that's how I know it. I think the Jewish religion teaches the same thing, but
yeah, they're close. They change the names a little, but they're pretty. And a lot of the
there's 3 different
Torah,
stories.
apparently, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible before the Christian Bible was released.
That's the book of Exodus, the
first 5, so
the
probably
Genesis.
Genesis, Exodus,
Right.
Levitic. I don't know. Leviticus.
You
I
know,
guess I failed Bible school. I don't know the first 5 books.
there's an argument that Moses never even existed. How about that one? There's no historical evidence of
Yeah,
Moses.
it's crazy. I know my nephew is in school or whatever, and they were teaching him that there's no historical evidence that the Jews, because in Hebrew school, I never went to Hebrew school, but I
You were
was
enslaved.
that we were never enslaved in Egypt, and that there's no archaeological evidence to support that Jews were even lived in Egypt.
Right.
Which is interesting. Like, okay, so
it was all paid labor too, supposedly, because they had built villages outside the cities where they were building these, where all these people lived.
But I mean, is the story like, so what? It's interesting what fact would be. Why is there no historical reference?
Hit me, James.
Oh yeah. So basically, in Judaism and Christianity, Isaac is considered the son of the covenant between God and Abraham.
That's his first son, right?
Yeah, and in Islam, both Isaac and Ishmael are considered prophets of Allah, and the Quran states that Ishmael was the firstborn son of Abraham.
That's where this whole fucking thing starts. Okay. That's why they're all insane, right? That's what they're all like out of their minds over.
Does the Bible, does the Christian Bible curse the Arab son or no?
I don't know. I'm sure they do. Because
what's the one of them gets cursed and they wander the field as a beast? Is that a different story?
That's Hagar. No, that's Hagar, the mother and Ishmael. Okay. Yeah, Ishmael.
So they're basically like cast out.
Yeah, they were cast out and they lived like beasts, right? That's the biblical.
But that's interesting because that means, is that the same God that they're worshiping that cursed them to
God, now you're going down a theological.
I don't know. All right. Well, we need some theologians in here.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're fighting over territory. Would you say territory?
Real estate. They're fighting over real estate.
Which is sad, that we're still bickering over the same shit we did 10,000 years ago.
I know.
But when I would go back to your question about Israel, you and I have talked about this a million times. I'm not into identity politics. So if I don't really identify as Christian, Jew, or Muslim. I'm spiritual. I'm kind of an anti-theist. So I believe in a creator or a divine. If I were closest to anything, it would probably be Judaism. But also I don't know a lot about, the Islam.
I that's one thing I don't know a lot about as far as religion is concerned. I definitely did a stint in theology. I actually combated 2 Augustinians from Villanova who were theologians at the Vatican, and a long evening of wine and song.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do, because I love the Gnostic Christian thing, is interesting to me too. So we'll have to do our theology show at some point. But circling back to Israel, you could, even if you're not a real religious person, which I just explained that I'm not, you could feel a tangible energy to the place. And I'm not a super woo-woo guy, so it did feel magical. It was amazing to walk streets that are, 8,000 years old, or to be in a place that, like, if Jesus did exist historically and he was actually there in that tomb, that's pretty freaking cool. So
you and I were talking about Jesus earlier. Why don't you insert your great wisdom on that one?
I think Jesus is what was the direct question about Jesus now?
Yeah, remember we were talking about this earlier when we were George Carlin.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said that to you this morning. Yeah. If Jesus wanted to show up at any point for a 5-minute press conference, international press conference, just 5 minutes, then George Carlin said, clear up a lot of misconceptions, which I love that. Like, now's a great time to make an appearance. Like, you haven't done a good one in a good, 2,500 years.
I'm talking to Jesus. I should probably put my mother on that.
Yeah, she could be his press secretary.
Irish Catholic mother. She probably
Okay.
could do some stuff and get him
How
here.
do you compare the Irish Catholic mother guilt to Jewish mother guilt? I mean, you didn't have a Jewish mother. I did, but we could talk about it. How they
Was your
compare.
mother? I think Irish mothers are tough. I really do. All Irish mothers. It's not just my mother. That's people I
Okay.
know that have had Irish mothers. They're tough. I mean, they're kind of tribal, right? Well, so are Jews and Arabs. But
I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but my mother's mentally ill, so I don't know how well my.
are you sure she's mentally ill? And it's just
Oh yeah, I mean, I love my mother very much, but she's
Hmm.
lost, and she was one who turned from
Mhm.
drugs back in the hippie days.
I
So
was
I
just
was
gonna
born
say.
in Woodstock. Would that'll fill you in, right? And there
Mhm.
was no hospital, so I popped out in Kingston, but I was born in the birthplace of hippie, dirty, smelly, druggy hippies.
Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. It was
Yeah.
really in Bethel, but
And anyway, when my mom cleaned up, she got very religious. Like it was called Jesus Freaks back in the day. We could have another show about cults and whatnot, but I was brought up in Christian cults, all while having
is
a
that
Jewish.
right?
Yeah,
Christian
oh
cults.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
no
this
kidding.
is so. This is my maternal line is Jewish, but my mother converted to Christianity, probably to spite my grandparents. That's normally what kids like do the exact opposite their parent says is kind of as an FU, right?
Yeah.
Or
No.
maybe they just think it's a much better lifestyle than their parents were living. I'm
I
sure
think
everybody at one point was like, man, whatever my mom or dad is saying is stupid. I'm gonna
bullshit.
do,
All
yeah.
bullshit. Yeah,
Well, just like, and
we've
we're
all
still talking about our mothers.
yeah, we've all been through the rebellious religious, Roman Catholic, altar boy.
I'm saying, so you had a lot of guilt to carry, and
Oh,
so did I, because
so
there's
much.
Jewish guilt there's no
Oh yeah.
shortage of
Well,
it in the
Jewish guilt,
family.
there's plenty of it. The fountain's wide open the minute you've ordained yourself as a Jewish boy or girl. The same thing with Roman Catholics. We are guilt driven. But isn't that the whole thing with religion and the manipulative components of religion and politics? I mean, there's that saying that don't talk about religion or politics. I'm like, no, let's talk about it
Yeah,
because
we
I like
both love it, and we can't shut up about it generally, right? At
no, and
family
I
get-togethers.
yeah, there's some validity. There's some validity to the origins of a God. I believe that. Do I believe that he's a guy up there plugged in with headphones and a mic and waiting for everybody to pray to him? I don't think it works that way. My family very devout Roman Catholics. There's a prayer thing they got going for Israel right now on the phone. I chimed in today. No one wanted to hear it. So
Well, don't you think that even the U.S., like if we did jump back into it, even the U.S. is ultimately involved because whatever you can call it the deep state, or there's a Christian ethos, even though everybody thinks the country's fallen into like complete chaos and godlessness. This country was still built on some Christian Abrahamic
values.
religion.
Yep.
Blood runs through the veins of this country, don't you think?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And my problem right now, I really have just so many fucking problems with what's going
And
on.
we all, I mean, it's a
But
scary
I mean,
country.
more than
If
I
you say
said.
you don't, then we know you're lying anyway. So
Right.
yeah.
No, yeah. Nothing I need to be laying on the couch with a therapist about, but it's just
Oh, I
so
lay on the couch as often as I can.
well, I go into my bed and lay down as much as I can because I got such a fucking great bed. Sealy.
That does help, doesn't
I
it?
don't even
Like
know
a
how
good
much I
night's
spent
sleep.
on that fucking mattress, but it was worth every penny of it. But what I was going to say is I have so many major. We're way beyond the religious thing. We're way behind Judeo-Christian. I have first of all, what happened this week with Hamas crossing over into Israel. I have some major questions about that. As you know, if you've been to Israel, it's the most surveilled country in the world. How did that happen? 7 hours before there was a response after they broke through that fence. I just don't know.
So I think Egypt preemptively warned Israel like in advance by 3 days, and they ignored it. I guess they ignored it.
Well, you want to know what the conspiracy theory out there is, which
oh boy, here we go.
Well, the problem with Israel, they're in a similar situation that we were in with the Donald Trump thing. You know, love him or hate him, I just don't give a fuck. But what I do give a fuck about is what's going on at the moment. Have we ever seen so many wars? There are so many wars going on. I had James do some research on that. How many wars? How many people? Just a summary.
Let's see here.
This is
Yeah,
in the last.
I have it written down. So in the major wars that are ongoing right now, there's like let's see. There's like 11 major wars going on right now around the world.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What do you got there? What are you firing up, Blunster? What do you got? Is that weed or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew it. It's organic.
Oh.
Just calming me down in these times of need, my brother.
Well, good for you. Problem is here. Everybody smells it when I light up a joint.
Oh, okay. God bless you. I mean, they're tolerant of me here in this state.
Yeah. Well, on both sides of me, they are here, but
yeah.
But so
I'm sorry for any kids watching at home. It's plant medicine for me.
It's fine. It's plant medicine. We're good with it. I'm good with it completely. So had a big discussion about it today. But I think that the problem I have right now with our politics, I guess, is the fact that we have Joe Biden comes into office, obviously an attachment to the CIA. I was just talking to James about this today. I said, what happens, what nobody really realizes is when John F. Kennedy was elected into office, there's a famous story about him walking into the room with his staff. And he walks in and he kind of just is just completely flustered, right? And he goes, I don't know who's running this fucking country, but I know who isn't, and it's us. And it was at that point, he had just had a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he began to realize that all these motherfuckers want to do is fight. And
the industrial war machine, right?
Even back then, you know, we've talked about this on other podcasts. Hitler scared the shit out of everybody. The sociopaths took advantage of that, infiltrated government, and then started to build this.
But what about the fact we're funding, you know, these major wars, our country is funding the Ukraine war and now the Israeli war?
Well, I mean, this is the whole
and both sides of the Israeli war, possibly.
Yeah,
right?
we're like the Rothschilds in World War II. That's what they did.
It's crazy. And how could that not end in some sort of economic collapse?
Well, you know, interestingly enough, this weekend I was in Maryland with a good friend of mine. He had a 60th birthday party. And I was with a gentleman. There's a bunch of them there, but this one gentleman in particular had done a ton of business in Israel, had done a ton of business in Russia, a ton of business in China, and a ton of business in the Ukraine. And the Ukraine has basically just been a money laundering operation forever. And when you look at what Russia did, Russia actually set up all these bordering Kazakhstan, and I don't know the names of them, in the Ukraine, all these bordering countries that Vladimir Putin said, oh no, that we don't have any, they're independent.
I think it might be called Donetsk Republic and Novorossiya, if I'm not mistaken.
How about that? Did you take shrooms today?
I did not.
Okay. I didn't. No, I can't speak for anybody else.
Maybe. But yeah, no, those republics and those countries bordering. That's why we have James here, because he's a smart one. I can't remember. All those countries bordering Russia were set up to be independent countries, so they would escape the U.S. government's sanctions, which are full of shit. And we'll get into that because this all kind of leads into one big thing. But my buddy was involved in the Ukraine. He was shipping things in and out of the Ukraine. And he has a pretty significant logistics network set up because that's what you need to have in order to be in the business he's in.
Sure.
And when he would get paid, no matter where he was shipping it, whether it was into Russia, whether it was into Kazakhstan, whether it was into any of these places, he was being paid by the Ukraine. He would get a check from the Ukraine or a wire, however they paid him.
I just want to correct myself real quick. It's actually the Luhansk Republic and not Novorossiya, as I said. That's a city in the area.
But it's part of that republic. Is that a group of
There's
countries?
Two. Yeah,
there's two countries
that they set up there.
Yeah, and he did that. He set that up. Vladimir Putin, who is the richest man in the world, richer than the Rothschilds, richer than, you never hear about the Rothschilds when they're making comparisons to wealthy people. But the guy who really outed him as being the wealthiest man in the world was Elon Musk on some podcast where he said, no, Vladimir Putin's got more money. He said he's got 10 times the money I have. But they don't have any public record. They live in a crime organization. The whole country's run that way. And the reality is Russia wants nothing to do with us. They don't give a shit about what we do because they're running an entire country on the down low in the dark markets. They're not, they don't care about the United States of America.
But it would be scary if, God forbid, we had to battle Russia, China.
Well, we're pretty fucking close. If there's,
and then whoever else wants to kick our ass because we defend Israel, even though I just found out the Arab United Emirates, is actually they're pro, they're one of our allies.
Oh, they are?
Or United Arab Emirates. Is that what I said?
United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, they're actually a U.S. ally. I believe my friend just told me that because he was going to do a military contract with them. And it kind of shocked me because they're probably not allies with Israel. And a lot of probably Arab-owned countries are probably don't like the fact we support Israel, obviously. That's why a lot of terrorism happens here. I myself at one point wondered about the U.S.'s involvement in Israel. I mean, I am happy. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I also feel for the Israeli people being Jewish and being there.
Well,
but I don't always know if U.S. backing Israel is a good idea because it brings a lot of shit upon the U.S.
Yeah,
but I have a theory if you want to hear it.
Yeah, I do want to hear it, obviously, because I'm going to get into my theory in a minute. So you go ahead and launch.
Okay, so my theory circles back to the fact that I believe the U.S. is kind of has this Christian ethos that kind of we adhere to. In other words, all the federal holidays are based around the Christian calendar. So even if we take a vote and most of the people in America claim to be atheists or whatever, I believe most of them probably believe in some old school Christian-based faith. And I certainly believe our government and laws are set up to support that and based on those holidays. So they support Israel because the temple needs to be right now in Israel, where the Wailing Wall is part of the temple that if you're a Christian, and this covers, I think even the Catholics, everybody, I think they believe in Revelations, and maybe you guys can look this up and fact check me, but the temple needs to be rebuilt before Jesus will come back for the rapture or whatever that's called when Jesus ascends for where the good people go up, right?
That's the rapture.
Okay, the rapture. So the rapture can't happen until the temple is rebuilt by the Jewish people. So that's important.
Well, that's Protestant. Yeah. That's more of a Protestant. I believe that's more of a Protestant belief about the rapture. I think that steps outside the realms of.
I think all Christians believe that Christ has to come back.
Yes,
though, right?
yes.
Okay, so just that Christ can't come back until the temple. And I need to be fact checked, but I do think it's Jews that have to rebuild the temple, not Christians or Arabs. Because right now, the funny part is there's a mosque.
What is it?
I think that's right.
What's it say in the Google?
Well, I'm just looking at the results. It says will we see the rebuilding of the temple before the rapture?
Right. The Christians need to have the temple rebuilt. Otherwise, in that faith, Christ can't come back, and that would be a loss for the Christians. So
have you ever seen Jesus of Nazareth, where Bob Powell plays Jesus Christ, who was a Shakespearean actor?
Was that the original, like the 1970s version?
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. I saw that as a kid.
It was 4 hours. I mean,
they ran it as a miniseries on TV, right?
Yeah, I thought it was the best rendition of Jesus Christ's life I've ever seen. But the thing that I loved was, because in theology, we always hear, well, Jesus Christ died for your sins. I don't even know what that means. So, but when you look at, when you skip all the theological bullshit that had pumped up our ass, if you're a Christian, what really happened was, and the denunciation of the Pharisees, that's one of the greatest theatrical scenes in movie history, I think. Bob Powell,
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, he heals a blind man, and there's this whole story with it. But the Pharisees, what really happened was Jesus Christ was in Bethany. I think it was Bethany, before he came to Jerusalem.
Wait, how do you know? You were there?
I was there. I have a time machine.
You sell mushrooms.
I got that thing that you have to get at the Vatican that takes the picture and goes back in time. Have you heard about that?
No. Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Have you heard about? Look that one up.
Yeah.
The Vatican commissioned Oppenheimer and all these guys to create nuclear.
David talks about it. Yeah, it's like a time machine. David talks about it.
Well, they have pictures. They literally have, supposedly. I don't know.
Do you remember the cartoon The Far Side?
Yes.
Okay, there was one he did where Jesus is on the cross and these two aliens just happen to come down at the same time that was going on, and they both look at each other and they look up at Jesus and they're like, "We better get the fuck out of here." And that's just the cartoon. Yeah.
Oh, really?
They're like, what is going on?
Well, in that particular scene, the Pharisees come and they start giving Jesus Christ a bunch of shit. And finally, he fucking launches off on him. It's so great. It's a great
But
scene.
it's righteous anger, though.
Yeah, it's righteous anger. And, he lets him have it. And he basically, literally, in the times, the language he was using was like, "Hey, go fuck yourselves." That's basically, he starts calling them spiders and lizards and the bones.
Well, you and I have talked about what we think real Jesus would have been like. And he was a social reformer. Jesus came for people that were fucked up.
He was a revolutionist.
Yeah, he was a revolutionary guy who wanted social justice and change.
Justice, right.
We think the real Jesus would have been a real ass kicker and would have gotten shit done, and most likely is the most influential character in history to have ever lived. Like, can you think of a more famous one?
No. And I out of all, I mean, I went on a religious journey and studied Buddhism, which I didn't like because it's too individual. It's all about you. It's not about the surrounding people around you or the community you live in. So I was never a big fan of that. I looked at them all. I looked at all of them, and I thought Christianity was a good religion, and I liked the philosophy of Jesus Christ because he was about love, and I think that's really important. But he wouldn't take shit from anybody. I mean, he went in and flipped over every table and beat the shit out of everybody, whips and sticks that were selling goats and gambling and tax collectors in the temple.
And guess what Jesus was?
He was Jewish. He was Hebrew.
Yeah.
Hebrew, maybe.
But he was a Jew.
Yeah, he was a Jew. And the thing that I was talking about, he was in Bethany 4 or 5 days before he got to Jerusalem, and he raised Lazarus, his best friend, raised him from the dead. And that's what got the Pharisees revved up.
You know what my son said about that Bible story when he was like 10?
No, what did he say?
He was like, so technically Lazarus is like a zombie, right? And I was like, yeah.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I was watching Walking Dead at the time or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he had that going for him when he went into Jerusalem with these guys who wanted to maintain their power. Does this sound familiar? The deep state of their time was the
same bullshit.
Same bullshit.
They're fighting over the same shit.
And
so what do we say?
He tells everybody to fuck off. He leaves, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna kill that motherfucker," and that's why he got killed. It wasn't for any reason like all this bullshit that you learn in Sunday school. I mean, he pissed off everybody. He shook up the world. He was a disruptor of the biggest kind. And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
Since you're more probably Christian centric than me, but even though I support, I like a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, me too.
But I agree with the Jews in that I'm not sure. I don't think he's the Messiah. And I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this, only because we still need a Messiah. We still, like I said about the press conference, we still need a physical manifestation of someone who can help humanity, because humanity, unfortunately, is just not getting along. We're not playing nicely, and we need to have our toys taken away. And so we need a Messiah. And I feel like maybe Jesus definitely did a lot of good social reform, but I don't think it fixed humanity.
No,
because humanity is broken.
No, humanity is really broken, and it's broken because we have a bunch of sociopaths that have never done any hallucinogenics running the country. And I think it should be a requirement of all politicians that if you are going to run for government, you've had to do a heavy dose of LSD.
I like that. No, it's the opposite. If you tell them, they probably wouldn't let you in.
And you know that, I don't know if you know this, but JFK's big thing was he had done hallucinogenics, I think with Timothy Leary. And who was his brother-in-law, the actor?
Timothy Leary?
No, I think that it was Timothy Leary that got him curious about it. Look up who JFK's brother-in-law, English actor.
Robert F. Kennedy?
Yeah. Peter Allen Lawford.
Yeah. Peter Allen Lawford.
That was his brother-in-law. He was married to his sister, I believe. But they were taking hallucinogenics before he became president. And I just go back to that. That's what they say really changed him. And he has never been interviewed, obviously, because of it. But he definitely became, listen, everybody we know that's done any type of hallucinogenics, they don't believe in any of this bullshit, whether it's religion, politics. They don't believe in any of it, right? None of us do. You've taken we don't believe in it. We just don't believe in this bullshit. And your bullshit meter gets turned on full on. But
you do get a sense of the oneness of all life, don't you?
Oh, totally.
Or at least I did.
Yeah, but we're plugged into something different. Unless you've done those things, there's a certain amount of enlightenment that takes place with those. I mean, here we are now talking about hallucinogenics. This is not what I want to be talking about. But what I'm saying is, it's that if you look back in time, it was the Roman Catholic Church that stopped people from doing hallucinogenics. And they stopped them because they didn't want anybody really enlightened, because the only people that were enlightened were priests.
Yeah.
The priests were like, the priests were like rock stars. They were banging every woman in town. You know, there was, I think back in the early centuries, there was no, oh no, you've got to be celibate. I don't think that existed.
Oh, you think that's a modern invention?
Yeah, that happened around the 17th or 18th century, when they started talking about celibacy and you got to be more like Christ. Well, I don't think Christ was celibate either. So we'll bring that.
Well, maybe we need to get into
I'll be dead by tomorrow afternoon, but I don't think he was. I think he had a relationship with Mary Magdalene, who was not a prostitute. They said she had mental illness, but she wasn't a prostitute, and he had cured her. And she funded his entire missionary. His entire mission was funded by Mary Magdalene's family.
Yeah, that's neat. I'm hoping I can read about some of that stuff at the back.
Well, there's the Gospels of Mary Magdalene and the Gnostic Bibles. But anyway, so Kennedy had done a considerable amount with Peter Lawford and all his buddies in Hollywood. They were all doing hallucinogenics, and they say that really changed the dynamics of his attitude toward all this stuff. And it was at that point that he changed his whole mind on war and, his experiences. And he took.
We need to get psilocybin put into the water for both sides, Israel and Palestine. How's that?
That'll fix everything.
Hamas.
That would fit. Everybody would love that, and a little Molly, right? Everybody
get a couple good DJs and some hummus
and dancing. Well, we'll throw some hummus in there. There'll be people be dancing and running around naked.
They would forget all these, like you said, all the shit, which is why I'm an anti-theist. Theism is what man says God is. And we haven't figured out the fucking material world. So how are we going to figure out the immaterial world?
We just figured out in the last 100 years we should wash our hands before we perform childbirth. So, I mean, think about that. And you want to know something else? From the time the Wright brothers launched their plane, right, their first flight, Kitty Hawk, to the dropping of the bomb, it was only 40 years. Think about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Right? 40 years from the first flight of an airplane, went off the ground, what, 10 feet, and that was it for
It took 4 decades to turn us into like we
killing
can
machines.
destroy the entire globe now.
Right.
Like basically for us to bite from the tree of the fruit of knowledge all
right.
over again.
And Oppenheimer would have created a hydrogen bomb, but they said they could have blown Japan off the map if it was done in hydrogen. So they did they went the nuclear route. There's a whole, if you see that, did you watch Oppenheimer yet?
I did. It was beautiful.
Wasn't it a great movie?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
gorgeous. And it was visually beautiful. The acting and the story was, intense.
It was really well put together. I watched it too.
Did you like it? I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, it was a smart person's movie because there was no action or, but the suspense was good in the end. Talk about totally getting fucked by the government.
You kind of expect it, and I didn't even really know the true history of him. But you kind of knew he was headed not in a good place,
Yeah, no, they definitely were out to. And the interesting part, talk about a gracious guy. All the people that betrayed him, he won an award, and he acted like nothing happened between him and all the scientists.
And guess what? Jewish.
98% of them were Jewish.
So what do you, in your opinion, what do they fight? What's this?
What's the deal? Well,
yeah.
Here's the problem. So we're talking about religion. We're talking about all these very deep subjects with lots of history, lots of stuff going on related to them. Very complex stuff when you start talking about the historical aspects and the theology and the theocracy of the whole thing. But I'm at a point right now where, and we can only, Trump wasn't president when this happened. Okay. So we can only talk about this mental midget that's running our country right at the moment.
Well, what do you think Trump would have
I don't think it would have happened. You want to know something that is great about Donald Trump? And I know, well, God, everybody's going to be like, Donald Trump. But anyway, the thing I like about Trump, he talked to our enemies. He picked up the phone and talked to the people that were our enemies. All this protocol bullshit where we don't talk to our enemies is fucked up. We should be talking to our enemies. Vladimir Putin did not want to be where Russia is today. He wanted to try join NATO in the 1980s or early 90s. I don't remember when it was, but he was told no, he couldn't. And the reason he wanted to join NATO was because of China. He saw China as a gigantic threat to the sovereignty of the USSR. And we said no. You want to know why we said no? Because we need the boogeyman. We got to have the boogeyman scaring everybody all the fucking time. So my whole thing with it is this. So we have this president. Let's just break it down and get to where we are today with Israel. We have a president who, no doubt, 100% has been compromised by China. No question about it. So he comes into office, and all of a sudden now we have a war in the Ukraine, which is the money laundering center. And if they were to take the Ukraine apart and peel it apart, what we'd find out is this. We'd find out that Mitt Romney's kid. So there's Republicans about, this is not just Democrats. This is Republicans and Democrats. That Nikki Haley gets on fucking TV and talks about, she's like John McCain reincarnated.
We'll wipe them off the face of the map.
Yeah, she wants to go fucking kill everybody.
She's as crazy as Hamas.
Yeah, she's out of her mind. And people,
I love that when the commercial. When it comes on, I turn it up for my wife we love that commercial because it's kind of the one where she's going blah 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 blah.
It's unbelievable. And people have bought into her bullshit. And
how's she doing in the polls?
She's up. She went past DeSantis, I think.
Did she really?
Yeah, recently she went past DeSantis.
And she's past
Vivek. I like the Indian kid, Vivek. I think he's
Vivek.
It's Vivek. I see. He got all this
Vivek.
stuff. Yeah, it rhymes with cake. He says Vivek cake. So, but anyway, so we got this president compromised, no doubt about it. Everybody's like, oh, there's no evidence of anything. There's more fucking evidence. A telephone call to the Ukrainian president saying, "What's the deal with those Bidens?" Now we're finding out that those fuckers are no goddamn good. And so
they're all corrupt.
They're all, yeah. Well, so here we go. All of a sudden, Biden gets back in. All of a sudden, wars start up again. He's part of the CIA. CIA's here to make all their friends rich, that make weapons, bombs, and you name it, right? So that's what they're here for. it just proves what John F. Kennedy's theory was completely true. Look at the bullshit with the FBI. They're all fucking corrupt. We're run by an organized crime organization. There's no question about it. And the Bushes were probably the biggest organized crime. And it just goes right down the line from Obama to Clinton to now we're with the Irish Mafia. Do you know that that Biden had huge relationship with Whitey Bulger?
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't he just die in the past few years?
Well, they killed him, right? They beat the shit out of him in prison. They beat him to death. But the interesting part about that is Bulger was an FBI informant his whole life. So he was protected until I don't know what happened where he ended up, in prison. I don't know.
They say that about Manson too? It was like a
Oh, he was an MK Ultra. He was an
Yeah.
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
And so was Ted Kaczynski, who was the Unabomber, and a bunch of other people. Charlie Manson, right? Yep, they're all in it. But anyway, so now we get to all of a sudden we want to bring Iran into this nuclear treaty, and we're supposed to have sanctions against them and everything else. You know that, and Kirby, is it John Kirby, his defense guy? He was called out on. I watched the news conference, and they're like, "Hey, Russia has, or not Russia, Iran." Has made $80 billion in the last 3 years.
Wow.
$80 billion. We're supposed to have sanctions against them. That's $6 billion we gave them for those hostages, which was really another mental midget move.
Yeah.
That
funding both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it blows me away. These fucking politicians, right? So you just wonder who's on to take. And I'm not speaking Democrats, and I'm speaking the whole crew, right? Democrats and Republicans. They get on, they are dying to go to war. Every one of these fucking guys. I'm not going to send my kids to war. I'm not sending my grandchildren to war for this country anymore because it's just corrupt.
And Netanyahu, I mean, I guess the general public in Israel would think he's doing a good job, but he's so corrupt, right?
Well, I don't know. They're saying we've got the same thing going on in Israel that we've had going on with Donald Trump. He's dealing with, the far right, and he's got all this shit going on. But here's the part that bothers me.
But hasn't he been charged with a million things like before all this shit broke out? Like he was.
Is it real? I mean, they can charge. I have
no idea.
Yeah, they can charge you with anything. Yeah. I don't know, but here's what bothers me. So the leading proliferator of terror in the world, Iran. We give them $6 billion, and they've made $80 billion in the last 3 or 4 years selling oil to who?
The Chinese.
The Chinese. Why the Chinese? Why the Chinese, right? We won't shoot down their weather balloons. We won't shoot, it's just on and on and on and on. And people are like, they have no idea that the shit is all connected.
But you think it's going to be, you think it's going to be World War III?
I think if there was ever a time World War III could be launched, it's now.
Wow.
I don't think the Russian-Ukraine thing, the guys I was with this weekend in Maryland said there is no Ukraine war. There's no war going on over there. There's nobody, they have, believe me, he said they've killed hundreds of thousands of people, but I didn't know that Vladimir Putin's mother was Ukrainian.
I didn't know. I'm part Ukrainian and Russian.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Equal amounts.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
But so what they were saying is that the Ukrainian war with Russia is a civil war. It's like our North and South. And Vladimir Putin, these guys claim that Russia could march through the Ukraine if they put full force on, a full court press on them. They in a week and a half they could destroy the Ukraine.
Oh yeah, it's just too bold to go in there and. It's like Israel and Palestine. They could drop one bomb or whatever, but they can't because politically it would look bad.
Well, that's where we're at. I mean, that's the next part of the discussion.
Or like Vietnam, the same reason we dragged that out, right?
Yeah.
Like the U.S. could have wiped out Vietnam.
And we just dragged it on. And Lyndon Johnson dragged it on. And Kennedy was going to stop the war. And again, they didn't want him to do that. When you look back on history and you look back on that period of time and all of those activists, protesters, from Martin Luther King to Malcolm X to Bobby Kennedy to John Kennedy, I mean, does anybody even fucking connect the dots? How many leaders have been killed in boom, boom, boom in a matter of 24 months like those guys were recently.
Yeah.
No one, right? I'm surprised Donald Trump's not dead. I'm surprised a lot of those guys.
I thought he was going to get killed like his first round in office, honestly.
Well, I think that's the next thing. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's what they're going to do.
Oh, I know they were saying that.
I think a lot of people did.
Somebody was saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I do think a lot of people thought he'd be dead by now. But why would he be
They
dead?
said the same. They thought Biden would be dead by now, not by,
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be natural causes.
right. That's
And
yeah, that's
so
what
the
I mean.
difference is they wouldn't poison him or kill him. But anyway, so just getting back to this whole thing. So you've got a president who's involved with this. Now he's decided how does this happen? How do we send a president or our leaders into war zones? That's never happened before. We don't do that. So
Maybe they're trying to get rid of him.
Well, Biden's going to fly into Israel tonight or tomorrow morning. How does he do that? They're in full-fledged war. They could launch 10,000 rockets at Air Force One. There's not a fucking thing anybody's going to do about it.
Yeah, that is a little crazy. I didn't even think about that.
Pro-US, like they would do it too.
Yeah, well, here's what I believe. They're not going to do anything. He knows they're not going to do anything. So he's going to go over there and he's delaying the fucking beating that should be put on Hamas for killing babies. Now, that's another thing I want to talk about because the news reports in the beginning were correct. They killed babies. I saw a mother on whose baby was killed and then burned. They're babies that had been beheaded. The news tried to discount that and say that wasn't true, just like they've said Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't true. If we were to go down through the list of things we've been told weren't true, from the vaccine to everything else we've dealt with in the last 10 years, we'd be, I mean, really, do you believe these?
The media is turning on Israel now, though. Do you feel that vibe?
Yeah, I totally feel that vibe.
Yeah, it's weird. They're only reporting one side of the story right now.
How? I know some Jewish friends, and they will support Biden to the death. And I'm like, and they supported Barack Obama, who was the most anti-Jewish president we ever fucking had in this country. And I don't know how do you do that, you know? And so the last 2 days I've been hearing all this shit about, listen, there's no evidence, and all of our intelligence agencies have agreed there's no evidence that Iran's involved. Give me a fucking break. They're involved in every single terrorist act that takes place in the Middle East. Especially
yeah, they're probably
Hamas.
They fund Hamas and Hezbollah, right?
Hezbollah is in the northern component in Lebanon.
Yeah,
they're involved. They're part of the Iranian Guard.
Well, that's why, and what I was saying about the United Arab Emirates. You don't think anybody who's a part of that is funding terrorism? I mean,
right?
There's no like Arabs can. There's like 42 free Arab countries, I believe. I don't know. Fact check me on that. Where like Jews have one country, right? They can go to the U.S.
or they can go to Israel,
or Canada, maybe
or
a little
Miami.
bit. We're not even really loved in either of those countries. But Arabs can go to 40 Arab-centric countries plus all the free countries like the U.S.
Right.
And you have to ask yourself why Egypt, why none of the neighboring Arab countries want Palestinians? Like, why is that? Why won't Egypt open their borders? Like
because there are problems. I mean, they don't know whether. So you got to make the difference between Hamas and the Palestinian people. So
right, there are definitely
because not all the Palestinian people are down with what's going on right now in Gaza. There's no doubt about that.
Right, it's not their fault. Hamas is in control. I agree.
Right, that's unfortunate. But here's the problem: when I hear, the intelligence agencies, they said, no, Iran's not involved. Well, fuck the intelligence agencies. They've lied to us for 10 years about everything, from the JFK death to COVID to you name it. How about this thing that just came out recently where the CIA was in trying to poo-poo the origins of COVID, saying, no, it wasn't gain of function. It fucking was gain of function. I hate to tell everybody it was all gain of function. It was all developed in a lab. Fucking put on your big boy pants, face the reality of your country. We are in a really fucked up country right at the moment. And so you've got this whole thing going on with, they all get together and they start spinning the lies. I don't know how any Jewish person, okay, if you really believe in your faith, and if you believe in what Israel is, how you can sit there and support this administration and the Obama administration. They were so anti-fucking Jewish. You know what it is? It's just total brainwashing. I'm trying
Well,
to.
at least the Jews have the fact that the left and the right hate them. Like, there's
Well,
not a lot of other groups that can claim that,
I think the evangelicals
duality.
have always supported the Jews, though, haven't they?
What's that? Say it again.
The evangelicals and the Roman Catholics.
Yeah, so like the public marketing.
What's going on with these fucking listen to me. I'm so worked up over this. I'm so pissed off. I really am. I'm so pissed off about it.
I know. Well, we all are.
I totally get why. I totally get this. The fight for real estate and the project development. You know, these people have gone into these less than great living experiences, and I get that, you know, and there's
ways how they're making their real estate claims is back to religion again, though.
Yeah, and it all goes back to,
they're not land deeds. They're like, you know, it's back to God said this land is mine.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my whole point is that when you allow a terrorist organization to come in and take control, I mean, the Palestinians could fight Hamas. They could get rid of them. Of course,
I thought of that too. Like, why are they not trying?
Why are they not fighting that? Well, they'll get killed. That's why they're outnumbered. It's got to be frightening living with cold-blooded killers. And then their true colors come through, and they kill 250 kids at a concert who are just there hanging out, probably not even a thought of terror or violence in these young kids. And then they go on to, you know, rape and pillage these villages. We saw girls being kidnapped, and they're in Harvard University saying, oh, it's cool. It's all cool. Palestine is being treated wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. And they're not, like today I heard the media talking about, Israel cut off water, humanitarian aid, and food and power, and it's causing a humanitarian crisis. But yet they're not saying
why.
Israel said, give us the hostages back and we'll turn your power on. But the media doesn't report that. They're just like, Israel is doing all this horror back to them, which they were attacked first, you know.
Yeah.
And they could they're offering a diplomatic solution, like give us the 150. Now they're saying 200 today. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
But give us the hostages back and we'll turn the power and give you water. But like, they're not reporting that.
It's like Israel is giving a response to what Hamas did. It's not the other way around.
Right.
And that's where I have major problems. And then our universities, right? The mind mush that they've turned our children into. Now they're in our high schools and our little schools, unfortunately. And, you know, the whole transgender thing, I'm kind of fucking fed up with that too. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm happy if you think you're a boy, a girl, a collie, a chihuahua. I don't give a fuck. Just don't bother me. And don't make me try and believe that you're a collie, because guess what? That's not genetically possible.
But if they want to be a collie, call them collie.
Hey, if you can be,
is it off you?
You can be a lamp. Put a lampshade on, and I'll shove a light bulb up your ass. How about that? And we'll call you a lamp.
Well, you are. See, I think you need to hit the blunt tonight.
Oh, I will. I'm going to need it.
It'll calm you down a little bit, which is probably why I needed to smoke during this podcast. I apologize for anybody doing security background checks on me.
Oh, my God. Believe me, they want to do them on me.
It's just
insane. And in Genesis, it said God gave man dominion over what? All seed-bearing plants. So, yes, I'm pro-cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pro-cannabis.
Because God gave us authority. So I gave you my theory on why the U.S. is protecting Israel so that temple can be rebuilt. And by the way, I was going to say, on top of the temple now, you have the Wailing Wall down here where everybody goes to worship. And that's the back of the temple. Then the top of the temple, guess what's on there?
You know what? I don't know.
It's kind of funny. It's a mosque.
Oh, you're kidding me.
So how are they going to rebuild the Jewish temple? There's a mosque that lives on top of it. So
is that new? Did that happen?
I don't know. We could look. Maybe you could look that up when the mosque was built. I don't know.
When the mosque was built in the Temple of Jerusalem.
But that would be a political nightmare too. Like, imagine that one.
Well, you know, just getting back to this whole thing, I get conflict.
Apparently not new. It says it was built in 715.
Oh wow, BC or AD.
Well, that's still after. So the Jews built it, and then because where do they start that? Is that started from the birth of Jesus or something?
Well, 750
from zero.
AD, right?
Yeah, 715
So
AD from zero.
it's 700 years later.
Built by the
Right. So it's still pretty new, right, compared to when the temple was built.
Right.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
yeah. But so I go back to this now. Biden's heading over there. I just saw him leave because I got the TV on in case anything comes up that we need to discuss.
Did he fall out of the? Did he fall out of the screen?
No, but they got him going up the short steps where they bring in all the Coca-Cola and the food. Have you seen that? He's going.
No. On the
the help where the help.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be making fun of him. I work with elderly, and if he wasn't the president, you couldn't make fun of him like we all do.
Oh, I'm going to make fun of him.
He's sad.
I think, I think he's.
It is sad. It is sad. If that was your grandpa, you'd actually be sad.
He's a full-on Irish gangster. I mean, there's just no two about it. And he's running our country, and look at the fucking wonderful job he's done. I always love that too. Look at the wars we're in. Look at all the bullshit that's going on. The rise of, again, finally, here we go. The terrorists are going to rise to the top again.
Is he seriously running again? Is that?
I don't know.
A fact?
I mean, I think he'll be dead before he.
Because didn't Kennedy drop out, or Kennedy switched to independent, so that just leaves Oprah's spiritual advisor and
him
and Biden.
Yeah, that'll be a drain on the Democratic Party's nominee to have.
No, it's hilarious. It's actually like the funniest thing I've ever
Kennedy
heard.
Too. I'd vote for Robert.
I like him too, and I would still keep my vote. It's just,
I would. I mean, I'm still not committed to anybody.
I haven't seen a better candidate yet. Have you?
I think Robert Kennedy's smart as hell. I think he gets the subject matters. He has been affected by the deep state, the CIA. I just am so shocked.
What do you think happened? Do you think he got pressure to switch, or do you think he was just
I think he's
fed up with the bullshit?
I think he's pissed off at his party. That the biggest components and promoters of the Democratic Party for years have been the Kennedy.
But he knows he could never win. Independents never won, right? Like him switching, like guarantees he won't win.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
like, wouldn't it almost be better to stick with your own beliefs, stay with the party, and then to increase your chances? Like, if you actually wanted to make change and make a difference.
I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is that Biden's heading over there to stop the momentum of the Israeli army.
Apparently, the only independent to ever be elected was George Washington. So.
That's right.
Oh, wow, cool. All right, so I guess it did.
Yeah.
There you go.
And that was the Whig Party. I forget.
I was just going to say, what were the parties back then, though? It was like
I think he was like against parties, wasn't he?
Oh.
I mean, let's see.
He was the first
Federalist and anti-federalist
secret society guy, I guess. He was the first anti-secret society guy.
I've never looked up like what the requirements are to be part of the independent party. Like, is it a set of, like, can each independent be completely different, or is it being like a Democrat or a Republican where generally you stick within the rule game? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there has to be a certain recipe to be a Democrat and a certain recipe to be a Republican,
Yeah, I guess if you have the money, you can run an independent campaign.
Right. You could just be like Kanye and run on.
And Kanye, I'd vote for Kanye. I'd vote for him in a minute. Too.
I was with Kanye until the whole "I'm the real Jew" and Jews should be killed thing. And
I don't think he said killed. Did he? Did he say that?
Well, he's like Hitler was a good guy. That whole
yeah. Well, that kind of I guess I can.
Yeah.
All right. I'll rethink my vote. But the point I'm making on this is that
back to theories on why the U.S. supports Israel
we should support Israel. We've supported them for a number of years. Believe me.
Do you think it's the Christian agenda, or do you think it's like geopolitical?
I think there's a lot of theology.
It's the only safe space we have in the Middle East, right?
Well,
not even safe.
It's the only democracy in the Middle East, so you have to align yourself with it in a way.
Even though they're super corrupt democracy, right? Like the
Well, here we go. So
as corrupt as ours.
here's what's floating around out there right now on Israel. So the most surveilled country in the world, if a leaf blows up against that fence, you have 90 IDF agents ready to, or military guys ready to kill the leaf. I mean, that's what it is. These guys breach that. And then for 7 hours, there's no military. And to what James said, and I had heard that Egypt had warned them 3 days in advance. Boy, this reminds me of 911, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, because we were warned about 911, and what are you talking about?
This is the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah. So here's what was.
You don't think it's crazy right wing shit saying this?
I don't know, but here's what the theory is behind it. There was a civil war almost in Israel that was going on. You remember there was a lot of protests going on before this all happened, and it was all against Netanyahu. So the claim is that same thing with Donald Trump. They've got a deep state in Israel. The liberal component of it runs that deep state, and that's who's after Netanyahu. So there's two theories. One is Netanyahu knew that and unfortunately, like Donald Trump, right? They think he's the Antichrist, so they can justify any action against. Right. Including all these lawsuits and everything. So they can justify that. And when you can justify that, you can justify murder, you can justify anything because you think you're doing it for the greater good. So that's what they believe. They probably think they're doing this for the greater good. Then on the other side of that's Netanyahu, who says, I need to do something to stop this. And so what he does is he knows that Hamas is coming in. This is one of the theories. He knows that they've been training for months outside that fence. They had those whirlybirds that they came in with, those parachute helicopter things, or whatever the fuck they are. Anyway, he lets it happen, creating a civil war, creating a need, because we all know what happens when wars start. You rally around your president, right? It's like a football game. He's the coach, and we want to win, so we rally around our president. George Bush would have lost the election if it wasn't for the 911 incident that had occurred. So everybody rallied around him. The second part of that story is, so that's number one. So Netanyahu knew it. He created this so he could.
Are you saying you're buying into that theory, or you're just telling us the theory?
I'm just telling you the theory. Okay. I don't know what one to buy into at this point. The second one is that he was betrayed, that the other side of this knew this was going to happen, and they believed it could hurt Netanyahu if they allowed it to happen. So they allowed it to happen. They allowed the intelligence to fall down. Does that sound familiar? That happens in this country all the time. The FBI, CIA favors one party in the deep state, and they work overtime to corrupt it and to undermine it. So we've just got a duplication of politics just on the other side of the pond occurring in Israel because they don't like Netanyahu. And here we are with Hamas. Now we're in a really shitty place with this. We've just unleashed all these fucking terrorists that don't have a problem killing babies, children, innocent kids. They killed a lot of young people, which pisses me off. Killing babies really pisses me off. And there's no evidence of it. And then all of these kids, all these rich kids and all these Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, moronic idiots, right? For Palestine, and they're not for Palestine. I don't want to mix the Palestinian people up with Hamas, with these terrorist groups. But they're cute about the way they do things. Mm-hmm. And one of those kids, can you look up the kid in Harvard who sure. They're all rich kids. I mean, they've never worried a day in their life. They've never had to worry about tuition. They've never had to worry about paying their rent. They've never had to worry about any of this shit. And it's always these fucking kids. If you remember during the, when the sit-in on Wall Street, they were all rich fucking kids. I was down there one day when they were protesting on Wall Street, and this kid has a $1,200 bomber jacket on. He's wearing a pair of cargo pants, Calvin Klein cargo. I got a picture of it somewhere, and if I can get it, I'll see if I can dig it up. He had a pair of cargo pants on that were another $1,000. This is 30 years ago. Okay, he has an iPhone. And there's a picture of him holding it up. I had a picture of it. And he's drinking a $5 cup of coffee from Starbucks. And he's protesting Wall Street. I mean, first of all, he had, just what he was wearing, phone, Starbucks. I'm sure it was mom and dad's card that paid for it. But these are the moronic idiots that are out there protesting the most horrific thing, justifying what they did to all of these innocent people in our Ivy League schools. And guess who runs the country? All these motherfuckers from Ivy League schools who have fucked up the entire world. And that's where we are. We're in such a fucked up place.
And they think Israel, you know, I mean, I think the younger people trying to take that Palestinian, pro-Palestinian stance, then by default hates on Israel, which by default is anti-Semitic, which by default is against everything they say. So it doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And I'm against our Ivy League schools. I don't think any of these people should be running our country. I think they're mind mush. I can remember my son Zach going to Lemoyne College, which was a Jesuit college in Syracuse, and we had to sit there and do his philosophy paper in a certain way so he passed the class. He couldn't put what he wanted to or what he thought or how he felt about whatever the subject matter was. He had to write it for the professor.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah,
that's fucked up.
Sad.
And that was better back then than it is today. You've got people doing the most fucked up shit, professors in school, to the point where they probably reluctantly had to get rid of a lot of professors.
And then you get probably outside of academia and move to, like, say, a professional writer. You could have a publisher that doesn't like where your book is headed if it's not in the zeitgeist of, right? I'm sure I don't know much about book publishing, but I'm sure
there's gatekeepers all over the place. They are all over. What are you going to say, James? What do you got?
Just from before, it wasn't like a single student that made the statement. It was apparently a statement signed by several Harvard student organizations that blamed Israel for the attacks.
One of the kids, though, was an heir. His mother was a perfume mogul. She was like, I can't think, was it Malone maybe? I can't think of her name. I mean, I know who she is. I know her line, or the company, but I can't remember what her name is at the moment. But that was her kid who was kind of the leading component.
Joe Malone?
Yeah, Joe Malone. That's it. Jomalone. And that's his mother. So this kid has got no worries, and he's out there. He's never been in a fight in his life. He's never had to worry about where he was sleeping, what he was eating. He's never had to worry about a fucking thing. And these are the people that are trying to influence our society. And this is the whole rich versus middle class versus poor. What are you going to say, John?
And then, but you go back to,
I think this kid's name is Josh Wilcox. I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, that's it. That's his name. It's Josh Wilcox. His mother's brand name is the Joe Malone line, but it's his last name, Josh Wilcox. That's it. I remember.
But if we go back to what the two sides are fighting about, we're back on religion, and not to harp on it or blame religion, but they are squabbling over, at least that's what they say they're squabbling over, or the land rights because of religious propaganda. I don't know what you want.
I mean, you know what though? That's the original. That absolutely is the original gripe. But if you walked into Israel today and say, "Well, why are you guys fighting?" They're not going to give you that answer. No one's going to give you the answer that we're laying out here. That no one's going to know that that's why. We've lost sight of that. It's become.
We don't know. They don't know why we don't know why they're fighting.
No.
Yeah.
They're just fighting because they've been fighting.
Yeah. That's the only thing. Yeah.
Violence corrupts people's brains to the extent of, it becomes.
So I just said to my wife last night, I'm like, yeah, obviously, like what I said earlier about taking the toys out of the sandbox. But like, if you had I'll ask you guys.
Jesus taking the toys out of the sandbox.
Yeah, it would be a good time for Jesus to do the press conference and to take all our toys away. But I asked her last night, I said, if you had the choice to vote for an AI or vote for a human president, I actually picked AI because, like, if the AI was programmed by a human to best serve the human species, in other words, like, not to keep us alive,
right? I
would vote for the AI because the AI is probably going to base it on rational statistics on the best way for humanity to survive versus a human who may be influenced by corporations for money or
Well,
power.
you know, if somebody's giving you $1 million, you know, that you're going to pay attention to who's.
But what would you guys do? Would you vote for a human or an AI?
I'd vote for an AI. I mean, how bad
Okay,
could it
that's
be?
two.
I mean, I think it really depends, but I think I would consider voting in it for an AI. I mean, why not?
So all three of us just said we consider picking that over humanity, which is like it shows that we really. Unfortunately I label myself sometimes as misanthropic because I want the best for humanity, but I have my real doubts. Like I like humanity, but I have doubts as to whether we can just be sustainable because we fight about dumb shit.
Hey, Jude, the country voted for someone
Well,
who's mentally decaying. I mean,
yeah, well, that's just part of the insanity. That's
so,
just one little.
So our agreement, 3 people here on a podcast saying, "Oh no, fuck it, I'd vote for AI." Well,
And that sounds insane, right? But
No.
it's more rational than what's happening.
I don't think it does sound insane, actually.
I'm saying if it was programmed right and like
Yeah.
you tested beforehand, obviously, and it worked, why not?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you guys.
I just don't know how, would we have like a HAL, like a light that's
I don't right. And who? That's the problem. Is like who would get to program it? Who has?
Well,
any
I mean, you probably
voice?
wheel it around on something, or you know, the guys at Boston Scientific could probably make something.
But if it was just programmed with the creed to for the survival of the human's animal, without any a code telling it how to do that, it's only
That's a bad situation. You don't want that.
Well, I mean,
because then it might
backfire.
It could.
No. It doesn't have power to think of whether humanity is going to do good or bad. Its only purpose is to preserve humanity.
Oh, you're saying
not decide what's right or wrong.
Not decide whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
Steer it on a path to success.
That's like the Matrix. What if they just put us all in a simulation to preserve humanity?
They say we're in a simulation now.
We could already be there, right?
The simulation theories are becoming a bigger and bigger. People are really looking.
Which probably would be operated by an AI, right? What are they in the Matrix? It was
some sort of like higher.
The architect.
It was the architect, right? But he was crazy, right? Wasn't the architect?
Yeah.
Mentally ill or something.
He was off the hook. He was.
Which is
destroy the whole world.
But this would be an AI that would just its only creed would be to keep humanity alive, be it good or bad, be whatever it is, whatever it takes, like biological human animal.
Well, the other thing too that has become a big problem that nobody's talking about is the fact that the weapons that these fuckers, these savage prehistoric men are using on Israelis and Americans.
What if Iran did bring nukes into the picture? That'd be fucking
scary. Well, I was just going to say is all the weaponry from Afghanistan, all that weapons. So the Taliban has sold a ton of that. All those rifles, the night vision, have sold that to Hamas. So the Taliban's involved in this too, and you know all the bullshit that went in Afghanistan.
Have we always just left our weapons in whatever country we occupied?
No, we did not. Usually, that was the first thing we would pull out.
So whose bright idea was that to leave?
I don't know.
We started doing that back in the Bush days, though, right?
I don't remember us ever doing that. Not
at that level. And stuff?
I mean, I forget. We leave $85 billion worth of. What did we leave? What was the
fucking? Whatever it is, it's insane.
In Afghanistan.
Yeah, how much did we leave? What was the weapon? I think it was like $85 billion. You know, Humvees, you name it. But they now know on the battlefield, these guys are using all of that weaponry in the battlefield in Gaza and Israel.
Well, it included apparently. Oh wait,
here we go.
More than half was ground vehicles. It says it included more than 316,000 weapons worth almost 512 million, and then it goes on like plus other stuff like ammunition is separate.
Yeah. So we armed our enemy.
Yeah.
There's a genius move by our political leaders.
That had to be. I mean, that had to be notated somewhere, right?
7.1 billion in U.S. funded military equipment was in the possession of the Afghan government.
And there's one other thing that I want to mention about the Arabs, and this will probably get me killed. Probably when I get out of my car, I'll be dead by tomorrow. But So back when I was running a tech company, we had a lot of families, and one group of the folks that were working on programming, their brother was going over into Iraq. He was going to Iraq. Anyway, so we went and bought them those indestructible computers.
Yeah.
And so they could send emails home and all this. And he was a communications expert. So he was really in charge of anything that was occurring in the theater of Iraq. So all their networking, anything that happened. So what was interesting is he came home and he came to our office and he had all of this video on Iraq that he brought with him. I so wish I had this today. I just don't know where it would be. We're going to hear this fucking story, okay? And so first scene opens up and I'm watching it and I'm like, and there's all these guys, all these Arab guys running around holding hands, kissing their arms around one another in Iraq. And I'm like, they're Muslims. They don't, because naive and stupid at the time. And he's like, oh God, he said, we couldn't have soldiers go out at night and do patrols because they were getting raped. They were raping US soldiers. So these guys who are involved in this Muslim religion, there's a ritual that they call bakabaze. And bakabaze is a process where they groom children, boys, and they become sex slaves to these tribal leaders.
Oh, jeez.
This is a common practice. Yeah. This is a common practice in their tribes.
And they what?
Huh?
A common practice where?
In their tribes. In
the tribes.
Yeah, in their tribes, tribal leaders. And,
wow. Yeah, I never heard of this.
So the whole Muslim religion to me is just one big pile of bullshit. I mean, I'm sure there's some devout.
Well, I mean, you got the Vatican. And
I was just going to say, you got the Vatican, so we got to.
I'm going there. I'm excited to go, but I also know the Pope is the head of the largest child prostitution sex ring in the world.
Yeah, thank God.
They had to sell assets. I mean, I don't know if we did a show on this, but
no, we have not yet.
They sold millions or billions of dollars worth of land to pay for child sex abuse cases. So yeah. It's not the first time monsters have hidden behind the label of some religion.
No, not at all. I mean, the Greeks were all about it, right? They were culturally.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so this has been an issue throughout history. We're just trying to normalize the whole thing here in the United States. But the point is that, you've got such a fucked up, convoluted mess that I think the United States, we've killed over 1 million Muslims. I mean, there's some really pissed off people about us in the middle, there's a lot of pissed off people toward us in the Middle East. We killed millions of people. Those were families, they were babies. Not to mention I'll always keep mentioning this till the day I die. In Afghanistan, where we were pulling out, the family, 7 children, mom, dad, and an uncle, in a truck bringing water to the gate, and to distract from the fucked up pullout and all the people falling off planes at 10,000 feet onto the battlefield, we decide to send a drone in and we kill the entire family. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
What fucking happened? What did we do? What was you knew we gave them $1,500?
It was something really sick. Yeah. Yeah. It was something really offensive.
Have we fucking heard a word? So the point is, we have administration that is could give a shit about kids. They really don't give a shit that these kids were killed. And believe me, there's a lot of them who view kids as a tool, not as a child and a future and someone's mother. I was saying this, I heard Joe Rogan say this on a podcast, and it was so weird because this is the way I think. When I see someone who is violated, raped, murdered, maimed, whatever that is, you know what I think in my head? You know what I'm thinking? Or when I see a homeless person, or when I see a drug addict, or when I think about that person was once a baby, right? That's what I see in my brain. It was so funny hearing him say that, because I never said this out loud because I didn't know if it was strange or bizarre. But I don't look at someone who's down on their luck, fucked up, ends up dead. That was somebody's baby. That was either a little boy or a little girl.
Well, this is one of the, you learned that on mushrooms, right? The interconnectivity.
Yeah, no, I never thought like this before until
all life is sacred. I
Yeah.
mean,
And you got these people who are little babies who become adults, but they were someone that someone loved, who we had great aspirations and hope. I know that that's not always true with when kids are born, but I mean, for the most part, I think people are good. They do take care of their children. They care about their children. But that was somebody's baby, and you just snuffed out their fucking life. And
I was, yeah, you're right. And I was talking to Elon, and about just like like God's will, like back on God, I guess, religion, whatever religion, but back on good and bad and God's will or whatever. And I was like, wow, if you listen to the Judeo-Christian Bible or the Abrahamic religion Bible, and what if you're on the opposite side of God's will? So in other words, like Christians and Jews believe everything that happens is God's will. But what if you just happen, like in the Old Testament, you could say the Philistines, right? Was the Israelites were fighting the Philistines, and the Philistines were the bad guys. But what happened if the Creator created, like, and you could use Israel and Palestine right now, but what if all this shit was true and the Creator did create Palestinians that just happened to be on the bad end of God's will for humanity? Like, wouldn't that suck to be born wrong, quote unquote, or born like to fulfill the prophecy of God or Jesus? Like suddenly you're born like the baby's innocent, it comes out, it's non-consensual. My daughter was talking about this movement in New York of people that are like anti-birth because it's not consensual, but we just pop out of our mother's womb, and you could live on that side of the border, right? You could be white, or you could be black, or you could be Jew, and you live over there like you were born 5 feet in the wrong spot. Like what? That sucks.
Side of the tracks, right?
Yeah, like who came up with that? I don't want to play by that rule. That's not fun. Or you were born rich, or you were born poor.
Yeah,
we just pop out.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. They always say you were lucky enough to come out of the right set of balls. That's
there you go.
Yeah,
but it's not consensual, right? You don't have a big say in that.
No, you don't. I mean, you're absolutely right. You don't.
So maybe Jesus could talk about that in the press conference too. What would you hope that Jesus
would press secretary, man?
What would you hope that would be covered in that 5-minute meeting between Jesus and humanity, and say that he's shows up right around Israel, Palestine, and he just talks to CNN and Fox News?
How disappointing would it be if he said, if he just went to an ice cream shop, got a chocolate ice cream?
Yeah, where's the best burger in town? Hey,
I don't want
best falafel.
I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm down here to get some ice cream.
Yeah.
But it's what was did you find that we got to find that, because it's on Jude's list of things to do when he's in the Vatican.
The paintings?
No, the picture, the camera.
The transporter.
Yeah, well, the camera that takes.
I found this article about top secret time travel hidden at the Vatican.
That's right.
That might be it. But there was a camera and a bunch of our, the Oppenheimer brain. Some of the guys who worked on the nuclear bomb worked on that project. I can't think of the name of it.
Can you imagine the shit down there? Though?
Not well known or like covered up, because it was really hard to find.
Look for Vatican camera taking pictures of history. What's that, Jude?
I think the other fun.
You gotta go find that camera.
Yeah, I think the other thing that like mysterious shit that people could have been fighting, because people have been trying to kick Israel's ass for thousands of years now.
Yeah,
and I think one of the driving factors was like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where they were really just after that Ark of the Covenant, because that meant you had basically the atomic bomb, right? I think David had theories about how people that had the Ark could win any battle, or they believed in it. And some
well, that was Indiana Jones, right? That was
right. And some, like the Nazis, were after that because they would have the ultimate battle weapon,
Yeah.
So on this article, it says basically, let's see, high-ranking Catholics literally going back, blah, blah, blah. In a physical sense, instead, it's more about opening and maintaining a window through which time can be viewed as one. The alleged technology at its heart is the chronovisor.
Yeah, that's it. That's
chronovisor.
Chronovisor.
Yeah.
That's it. Read that again.
Doesn't that sound like mushrooms too, though?
Oh,
where
yeah.
you just find out all time is one.
Well, I mean, can you get any information on who the Vatican? They commissioned some really leading scientists to do it.
They figured out the pictures were they were debunked, though. Do you remember?
I'm reading it. Let's see.
The crucifixion picture was, yeah. I mean, the thing that was so interesting about it was
Ernetti.
Yeah, that was the priest,
Father Pellegrino Ernetti.
Yeah, Father Pellegrino Ernetti.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, you could. Well, you got to go there, and then we should do an episode on the Vatican.
Enrico Fermi was among it. Like he was one of the scientists.
Okay.
Let's see.
Had a couple.
What are you saying? You can visit? You can't actually see. It's just supposedly hidden underneath the Vatican, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to let you near.
Along with like the lost books of the Bible and the Ark of the Covenant and probably
well, the Ark of the Covenant's in Turkey, isn't it? They got it.
Did they ever find that?
Well, supposedly they did. It's in and it's supposed to be. If you touch it, you're dead. You can't touch it.
Yeah, God will strike you down. Remember the person who was carrying the ark the wrong way, and he got struck down in the Bible.
It's still bullshit. I mean, who was it? There was Moses, and who was Moses's brother or cousin? I can't remember his name, but he helped. Moses stuttered, so he spoke for Moses. Did you know that?
Aaron?
Yeah, Aaron. Oh my God, Gene is on the.
Say it's good we have a.
Yeah. No, Aaron.
We have a working brain amongst us.
Thank God.
Yes.
Because we can't do shrooms while we're doing this. I was going to say that I have a Vatican story that when you get back, we'll do a Vatican series.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do something on the Vatican. But a friend of mine who's a gay guy spent some time in the Vatican. And I'll tell the story about what was going on.
Oh, boy.
Vatican. I mean, it's like, oh, it's crazy shit.
I'm sure.
They were bringing.
If I don't come back, you know where I'm going.
I know. If you don't come back, they've been listening to our podcast. And they're going to let you come back. But he's got a very interesting story about the Vatican and about this cardinal who had a flat in Rome that was like 4,000 square feet. Can you imagine that, living like that?
Yeah.
And
Rome?
Yeah, in Rome, 4,000 square foot flat, and he had an interesting collection of things. But which we'll get into when we do the Vatican. But the Vatican,
I'm interested in the exorcism part too, like the Catholic Church has real exorcists.
I was exorcised.
Were you really? Yeah, this has to be another podcast.
Yeah, I had that happen to me, Father Machetta, and he was the second man in charge of the Vatican, and I was so fascinated by it. And he had a red Bible. And there's only 7 of them in the world, and they're kept at the Vatican under lock and key, and they're exorcism Bibles.
I like it. How to do it?
Well, they're all prayers related to all different types of exorcising, and every time they identify a demon, it goes into the book.
Wow.
So they're constantly updated. And they have monks that update it. They're not updated like, oh, let me run a Xerox. They're updated by hand.
Wow. That's cool.
The red book, though, I'll never forget it.
I'll try to sneak one under my robe.
Oh yeah, if you could get one of those, get that out there. I actually tried to contact him. They got him under lock and key. He performed 2 exorcisms without the okay of the Vatican.
Oh wow!
So he's almost excommunicated. But I'm sure they got him down in that Luciferian room. They're probably torturing him with aliens and demons. I have no idea.
Oh my God.
But I think that'd be the next podcast when you get back. How long are you there for? How long are you there for?
I mean, for security purposes, I will have a security force staying here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I will be sending different geolocations. So now I'll be back in November. I'll be sure we'll do another podcast. Lots of cool things to report.
We're going to be doing a podcast on health. We're going to do it with Pam Pesta, probably next week. I think we're probably going to do it, but she's got some. We're never going to be able to put it up on YouTube. They would never. That would be it. We'd be done. I don't know that we're not going to be done with this podcast, but but she.
Well, our hearts and good wishes go out to both. In my mind, at least, I can say for the Israeli people and the Palestinians, all that are innocent. My heart goes out to them and their families.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
Yeah. So with that said, I think we're going to wrap up. I'm exhausted. I'm really pissed off.
I am too. Calm down. Now you can have a martini.
Oh, I'm just so geared up about the whole. If there is a hell, there's going to be a lot of Gentiles burning in hell, and a lot of Yale and Harvard students that are going to be burning in the brimstone of hell, being raped by Satan, flipped over a big hot stone. You made that choice. I mean, everything has consequences. So, fuck
And
you.
even God came up with that, right? Because somebody had to conceive of the most
One last
horrible
thing that I sent you. You remember the podcast where we were talking about tortures?
Yeah. I saw that. That was the name. It was like scaphism.
Not that I think you're full of shit.
You see how, and it was even more sick and disgusting.
It was worse than what you
than I described. Yeah.
I was like, I almost threw up.
Yeah, it was like that was some dark shit. That would be like even in hell, they'd be like, I don't know about that one.
Oh my God, I kind of throw up. So one last thing, though, I got to talk about this one last. It has nothing to do with any of this dark. Well, it's not going to be pleasant subject. So they obviously the algorithms, they pick up what you're looking at. What do I like to look at? I like all of the Nature's Metal. Have you ever seen that on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking right. You just can't believe it. So that's why I believe that, like you were saying, that, the people are at this end of the stick and, up here. Well, the Serengeti plains and the desert, and that's the way it is. Hoofed animal. I want to be a lion. I don't want to be a hoofed animal.
Yeah. You don't want to be the prey.
Have you ever seen just zebras and gazelle? I don't want to be an impala or gazelle. They just kind of, one bite, they get on their throat and it's lights out for those.
Or you're like a mayfly and you just pop up and you exist for, what is it, 7 hours or 7 minutes?
Yeah. But I always am interested because while they're laying there being devoured alive, these stuffed animals, their tails are wagging back and forth. I think they go into some hallucinatic state, like they're just, they're ripping their guts out. They're disemboweling.
Yeah, I mean when
people the jackals come along and the hyenas come along and they're fighting with the lions for the last piece of the intestine. I mean, it's so fucking bad.
And that's when you get the religious people that are like, oh my God, nature is such a reflection of God. Yeah. I'm like, it's pretty fucking brutal too, isn't it?
I think it's beautiful either way.
Yeah. Roman soldiers. But the one I can't stand, I can't watch it all the time. There's been a couple of clips where I can watch most anything, but is those Komodo dragons. I have been talking about.
Oh, that one, yeah.
I can't watch it.
They're like persistence hunters.
Yeah.
They'll follow their prey for weeks.
Yeah, not only that, but they bite them and infect them.
Oh yeah.
And then they're very calculating. But the one thing I've never been able to watch, I keep trying to watch it and I can't get through it, is the water buffalo. Giant fucking water buffalo.
Yeah.
Stuck in mud. Who comes along? Larry the lizard. And he's like, la la la. They got their tongue.
I watched that.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Well, he's got that death look. If you've ever seen animals,
they can't do a single thing about it.
Yeah, no, he's stuck in the mud, and then one shows up, then another. I mean, it's a big water buffalo, so he's like food for.
They're eating good for years.
Yeah, they're gonna devour this thing, but they lick them to death and they chew them to death. I was like, they prefer to just swallow everything whole, but what I didn't know is they have 1-inch teeth. They're like razor teeth.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is. There was a little pig sleeping. He was probably on vacation near the beach in Thailand, I think, or the Philippines. I don't know where these dragons are, but they're somewhere, Philippines or Thailand. He's laying there on the beach. Dragon walks. He's just and the fucking dragon hits him in the ear with his tongue. And I think he must have thought it was a fly or something, right? He doesn't really get up. He's just, I just want to sleep. oh my God, then this dragon just gets on this pig and it's just, one of those wild boars.
Is it any different with these kids at the concert in Israel, man?
No, predators.
They're just
fucking predators.
Went to have a nice night out, right?
Yeah, they just were, the pig was laying
Little
there.
pig sleeping on the beach,
Yeah,
just
like
kids
catching some rays, doesn't know why this fly is bothering him.
So we're not that much more highly evolved than the Gila monster, the lizard,
We're chimps.
We're just eating. But those guys are killing at least the
lizard.
Yeah.
Those guys want to eat, they're killing.
Yeah, they're killing.
It almost made more sense when the cavemen were fighting over the leg of lamb,
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely made more sense. That's for sure.
Yeah. I can't.
These guys, now we come up with reasons to kill each other. But maybe let's end on a happy note.
Well, you know what? If we could take all of that effort we put into machines that kill people and processes that kill people, do you realize the effort we put into all this shit? We put more effort into that than we do trying to cure cancer, than we do trying to cure disease, than we do trying to understand why we're all different. If we could just take a step back and go, let's stop building this shit. But we're always building that next thing, right?
This is why I'm voting for the AI.
Yeah. I mean, the AI could save our lives. We really have to be open-minded about that, because I think ultimately that could be the answer, is an AI. I never thought I'd say this.
What if the Messiah was AI?
Well, they said he was a lot of things. I don't know if, one last thing though, I don't know if I sent you that article on RPI, which is they're building a quantum computer.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, right up here.
Oh yeah.
That's when we'll have AI. We don't really have AI yet.
Self-improving like AI that can just itself.
And wait like 10 years and they can wrap that in a silicone body form.
Well, it's sentient, right? It'll learn. It'll that's what RPI is aiming at. And
make sure it has the right guidelines.
Right. Well, that's the problem.
That's a little scary.
One last thing on AI, then we're closing this goddamn podcast. So here's my problem with AI. We've talked about this. I mean, there is no such a thing as AI at the moment, but there's very well written software that goes beyond the pale when I was doing software by far. But most of it's just well written, cut and paste AI. Although we did a huge project recently using AI, and I was very impressed with it. But this is what bothers me. The government's getting involved in AI. So when I was doing technology, the government was stupid. They didn't know anything about technology, and they were trying to get involved in technology. And I'm like, oh my God, I got a headache, because you were talking, they were using rotary phones when I was in these senators' offices. I mean, they were just so far not understanding. None of the senators understood anything, but their aides did. So here's my problem. AI is very powerful when we can get it, when it finally shows up in the next 10 years. The problem that our politicians have with it is that it will be the greatest bullshit meter that's ever existed on Earth, right? Because it's going to be able to take all this information and say, oh no, you're full of shit and you're full of shit. That's not true. Fuck you, right? The AI is going to be able to do that. So the problem we have is they're trying to, the legislation, and I'm a little pissed off at Elon Musk for this, where they're all climbing on board, and I know why they're doing it, is they want to be the default mechanism for AI.
Sure.
Right? They want to control the AI. So now it's programmable. So they're trying to snuff out the open source AI.
And there's going to be people wherever, I won't blame China, but there'll be people that aren't worried about what they're programming for the AI.
Evil.
Right?
They're going to program shit that.
Or evil. I didn't want to come right out and say it, but there will be evil people.
I will.
They're
going to want to come out and they're going to create AI that works for them.
Right.
Vote for this Democrat, vote for this Republican, right? It won't be objective. And the only way we're going to achieve that is not by allowing two corporations to build AI. We're going to have to allow the open source. And when we allow open source, I work with tech people. They can, strangely enough, be objective. I don't know.
You think Neuralink's going to be open source? I doubt it.
Probably not.
Like Elon Musk's Neuralink?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think they can make that open.
So say you get that chip installed in your head, and there must be an OS system. Who's going to run that OS system, and what's going to happen when they upgrade it?
You know what? I'm happy to keep all my intelligence on this.
Yeah, me too. I'm fine with it being separate.
I know enough about technology that can be hacked. This can be hacked. That can be hacked. I don't need this being hacked. It's bad enough they are hacking it. You know, they've got a system down to hack your brain. So with all the disinformation and things that are out there. So yeah, with that said, we've got to be really careful about the legislative process with AI because they're trying to get in there and control it. But no politician likes AI. Nobody. And why don't they like it? Because it's going to say, you're full of shit, you know? This is how you're full of shit. You know, that's what's going to go on with the whole AI thing. So there's a real struggle right now. And I'm hoping that the open source survives and they decide to just get the fuck away from their legislative process.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I don't believe AI is going to take over the world. I don't believe it's going to be bad for us. I think it's going to be a great thing for us. I think it's going to do a lot in medicine. I think it's going to do a lot. I don't think we're going to be having the Terminator or Arnold Schwarzenegger show up at the house. I think there's ways to prevent that from happening.
I just think even before AI, I think information distribution should be open platform and shouldn't be controlled by single entity governments or, you know, Google.
Well, the other thing too is if they create AI that is objective and can make the right decision. They can program AI in the very beginning, give it a conscious, give it boundaries so that it's not out there to destroy human beings or making decisions about human beings.
Or making religious decisions. Maybe that would save wars. Well, I was just telling somebody, wouldn't it be cool if we could just fight using our avatars?
Yeah, you were talking.
You know, like in the new meta, I guess they scan, you can wave your phone around yourself. This isn't released yet, but this is what Lex Friedman and who's the Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
they scanned themselves, then made these 3-dimensional avatars, and then imagine if you could fight a war that way. So you could have an Israeli one and a Palestinian one, or get 1 million fighting each other, and then you could sit back in your chairs and battle your avatars out.
Right.
I think they're going to do that, but with robots. We're going to be able to control robots, and the robots will fight each other.
Drones and it'll be
robots. Just the average civilian. Just have a robot.
I'd love to have a robot just doing everything for me. You know what I mean? Cook, clean, write something for me. Tell me I'm wonderful. Tell me I'm fantastic.
Do a podcast for you.
Do podcasts for me. Come on. Tell me how great I am. I would love that. Every minute of it. I would love it. But anyway, with that said, I'm done. We're out.
All right.
We are.
It was nice talking to you, Jude.
Yeah, same here. We'll have to do another one upon my return.
We will. We're doing the Vatican. Okay. Send us some video.
I will. I'll be shooting and.
Yeah, I'm going to prepare it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I'm going to really work it up on the Sleeping Man Instagram.
All right, cool.
And, and
I'll send you pictures so you can post or whatever.
There is no fucking doubt you will find the weirdos at the Vatican.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah. I have an outfit picked out too, so you guys will be happy.
Oh, what are you going to wear? Are you going to have a collar or no?
I'm going over the top. I'll just say that, but it's within the legal limits of what you're allowed to wear there.
Oh, that's right. You got all these.
Yeah, I'm not wearing at first I was thinking I should get like a costume, like a cape and a big hat or something over the top. But then I'm like, I don't want security to remove me. So, but I think you guys will like it.
With that said, I really hope Israel survives this whole fucking thing, and
me too.
I am with Israel 100% on this.
Me too.
When Hamas decided they were going to fuck with innocent people, I was like, I would have never been for Hamas, but I'm like, go level Gaza. I know that's terrible.
No, I mean I'm okay with that too. But as my uncle says, who he was supposed to be on our podcast, but we didn't choose it. God chose us. So. Yeah, it's not our fault. God chose us. We just came out this way.
Your uncle's having sex tonight.
Yeah, and he's on a hot date with his wife instead of being here with us.
Date night, but that's okay. Good for him.
I'm happy looking at you tonight, Greg.
I'm happy looking at you too, Jude. You look dapper. You look goddamn it dapper.
Yeah, but I did try to dress up a little for you guys
So
tonight.
wonderful. Yeah, well, you're always dressed up. You are quite you must be a big role play guy. Anyway.
Big role play guy.
Yeah.
All right. Good
All right.
night, gentlemen.
Good night.
I'll
Talk to
see you on the
soon.
other side.
Yeah. Have a good trip.
Thank you.
Have a good trip.
Bye.